Welcome to another Jamwriter nugget. Bite-sized chunks of wisdom for your writing and publishing journey from Jamwriter authors. From manuscript to market and beyond. Today, our authors and designers will be talking about design.
Readers know what they like to read, and your cover serves as bait to find your perfect readers. So just like in fishing, you use different bait to catch different types of fish, you use different types of covers to find different types of readers. And I think newer authors sometimes get caught up in my book is for everyone, which isn't true. Your book is for people that are going to naturally love it. And people who love reading vampire books, they know what those book covers are supposed to look like. So they're always scouring the ads, the Amazon pages, the bookshelves in their bookstore, scouring for vampire books because they know what they look like. So your cover needs to spark their interest.
Over 200,000 books were published in a year in the United States. I can only imagine throughout the world how much you'd multiply that by. That makes it pretty competitive. It also coincides with the fact that traditional publishers don't take chances on new authors the way they once did, because it's such a cutthroat business, and their margins are so small. So really self-publishing, but now I'm old enough that I remember the expression vanity publishing, but really self-publishing has become a legitimate thing. I mean, where people seek out professional editing before they send it to a designer, and then they send it to a designer so that it doesn't look, like a homemade do-it-yourself project that anybody can do. I mean, if you expect people to pay for your book, you have to give them something that looks professional and, that they have some confidence in that they're getting their money's worth.
Getting that right, getting the emotional tone, getting the genre tone correct, that's going to give indie authors a leg up in the market. We have to do that because we don't have $1 million marketing budgets.
Exactly.
We don't have access to the morning shows and an interview with a newscaster that's going to feed into 1 million homes, right? We have to kind of use some of these ploys to make sure readers notice us and know that they can trust that we're going to deliver something they like.
That's interesting because I actually went through 2 different designers. And the first designer that I hired, she was very sweet and she was very kind. And I gave her my idea. In my book, I play a lot with consumption and food. And there's a pie shop that's there. And there's a specific scene where one of the characters brings a pie into the forest and it is laid splattered on the ground. I thought that would be such a cool scene. And she did it, and it never sat right with me.
Right.
So I think I've learned that I need to step back and not have my ideas because I'm not a designer. And I ended up hiring somebody else who read the book, and he came up with 4 different designs for me to choose from, and then I could choose one of those to kind of make adjustments.
I wanted to make sure that the covers looked as good in a postage stamp as they would in a full screen, because nearly all the marketing we do is Twitter or Facebook. Some people use Instagram and TikTok. All those things have small images on the phone, and if the designs are very intricate and the font is very complex, it doesn't stand out as easily. And you can have an absolutely stunning cover that does not relate well to a thumbnail. Even when on Amazon, it's sold by a thumbnail, postage stamp size.
Well,
so that was my big criteria, is I wanted
I outsourced that as well. I had a graphic designer. Both, as it turned out, both the editor and the designer were from the UK.
Right.
And that was just a happenstance. It wasn't by design, but I located them via the web. I haven't ever talked to either one of them or met them, obviously.
Yeah.
But I haven't revealed the cover yet. I'll do that about 3-4 weeks from release date. But I was very happy with the result.
Yeah, well, so when we worked together, we put together. I basically gave them answered several questions, say, and put together a bit of a summary as to what the story was about and who I am, and they designed through what I expressed to them 3 different cover ideas, and then we went through those covers and tried to see what we could do to amend certain colors or writing, like the Misty Lake, for example, is the bold red you see there now. Things like that were done afterwards, after the initial presentation, and there's a bit of editing to the covers as well. And it just, after working with all 3, this one that I have now sort of became the front runner. And it just has that nice sort of eerie sense to it that tells the story just by looking at the picture, really.
So I think if you're looking for a new designer, if they're a professional designer and have numerous book covers in their portfolio, they're going to be familiar with Amazon and templates. That's kind of a given because we're all pretty much on Amazon. If you're an author that's going to be using something that's a little bit outside of the norm, Book Baby or Lulu, you need to check with your designer to see if there's any additional costs. As far as the budget goes, something to consider. If you've written a series and you're going to produce it in paperback, those are good follow-up questions. Most designers will publish what they charge for an ebook cover, but you need to maybe do a little bit digging to find out how much do they charge for a paperback and how much do they charge for series continuations. That varies a huge amount amongst designers. So you may find 2 designers that charge $250 for a cover, right? Same. But the moment you dig in, you find out designer A will charge $250 for the second cover in a series. They'll keep it the same. But you might find out that designer 2 charges less for series continuations, maybe $150, maybe $200. Maybe one charges $30 for a paperback wrap. Maybe one charges $100. So kind of dig into those details for your project because that might change the overall pricing and quote that you get from a designer.
I read lots of books. I kept looking at books and how they were absolutely laid out, the spacings between paragraphs, all this sort of thing. I looked at covers, at the back page blurb, to try to work out a way of doing this, and I actually created the whole thing myself. Whether it was the right way or not, I don't know, but I looked at lots of other books and said, well, yeah, they got that on the back page, they got that on the front page, that's a preface, there's a prologue, and this is interesting stuff. The cover, I have a couple of sons who are artists. I got one who's a commercial artist who lives in Copenhagen, and I told him about the story and he'd read it, and I said to him, can you do me a painting of the west coast of Scotland, an image that might bring out what this story embodies in terms of a visual thing, and he very kindly did that painting for me, and it was perfect.
Well, I had years ago when my children were small, their dad and I had a little print shop, and that was before personal computers pretty much destroyed the quick print industry. But I used to do a lot of typesetting, so I'd set business cards and letterhead and band flyers and all sorts of different things. So I had some rudimentary skills in not so much using current tools, but being able to look at something and say, does it flow right? Does the eye travel through the document correctly? So what I do with my cover designer is I'll do a mock-up. And I'll go out and if it was a romance, I would be looking for what do my main characters look like to me, and I would find models that were similar. And but with the humorous fantasy that came out, I really wasn't dealing with models anymore. I wanted to do something that was much more looking a little kitschy, a little campy, a little cartoony, just kind of funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to just have somebody look at that and say, that's a funny book. I want to read it. And so basically I just go in and build kind of a color palette. It's a beach book. I wanted these hues and this kind of a weathered board background, and, find me a funny looking Speedo drawing and a bottle with an eyeball, and put that all together and make it look funny. And so when she comes back from my mock-ups, she's really good at catching what I am envisioning with my really crude little slaps of different kinds of graphics on a little paper.
Right.
But Melody Simmons, she's a UK cover artist, and she does beautiful work.
Mm.
Book cover-wise, I was not going to go anywhere near it myself, my art skills. I can look at something and know, oh, that's very pretty, that's great,
Yeah.
but no, I totally employed a specialist designer. The lady I'm working with has now just sent me the final cover for book 2, which is the third in the series, so to speak.
Right.
And she gets it totally. She wrote, the reason I came to her actually was quite different. Rather than just asking on Facebook groups for recommendations or doing loads of research and narrowing it down, etc., I actually started researching covers and what makes a good cover and why, the thought process. And I kept coming across articles written by her. So I thought, I'll actually, she seems to know what she's talking about here. So I'll approach her and I'll speak to her. And yeah, so that's how that relationship was born. And I'm really pleased with how it's turned out, because it's a lot to convey in a cover. You've got a lot of information that has to be instantly imparted.
I mean, there's various forums and websites that people get to exchange information on, authors and publishing websites. I find my clients, I would say most of them find me word of mouth and my website, but I also go looking when I have quiet periods. Like I just, although to me it was counterintuitive, because with the pandemic, I figured, well, all right, people aren't working, so maybe they have time that they're writing their books, but I don't know where they're getting the money to publish them. And yet it was the last year and 3 quarters have been about the busiest that I've ever had, which surprised me. And I'm just now, I've had a 2 or 3 week kind of lapse, and now I just started picking up again.
Oh, right, that's good.
But people find me. I search all over the internet, where I'll just Google phrases like need a book designer, want a book designer, and I'll find people posting, looking,
Yeah.
and I'll see. Now, some of them, want to pay pennies on the dollar, and I say, well, maybe you need to find, a student or somebody who's just starting out, but that's not me. So it's not every person I find I get a project from.